Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Payments Podbyte. Today, I'm joined by Carlos, our Associate Vice President and Business Development Director in Latin America and the Caribbean. So, Carlos, it's known that Latin America has more mobile phone users than China, India, or Kenya. So, why is financial inclusion in the regions much lower?
Hi, Declan. First of all, thank you for having me. Well, contrary to what many people think, the lack of financial inclusion is not necessarily related to the lack of access to technology. On the contrary, speaking specifically to the cell phones that you mentioned, it has been observed that people belonging to the unbanked segment manage their services quite well in terms of cheaper hours, which company gives them better rates, or things like that. The main factors preventing these individuals from entering the formal financial system include a combination of lack of infrastructure, entrenched spending habits, government restrictions, and a fundamental lack of trust in the financial system per se.
Okay, and you mentioned that local consumers lack trust in financial institutions in the region. Why do you think that is?
There's no simple answer, but I would like to point out that in our region, trust in general is a scarce commodity, and it affects many aspects of life, from political issues to personal issues to financial issues. If you add this to other elements, like their current spending habits, where people feel that they control their money better if they have it in their pockets than in the bank, and others, including the one that I mentioned before, you will conclude that there is no motivation for them to enter the financial system.
Okay, and what can FIs do in Latin America and the Caribbean to gain the trust of the local consumers?
Well, we have witnessed a huge improvement in the last 15 years or so. E-commerce is a perfect example. Earlier last decade, people that was already active in the financial system were very reluctant to perform purchases in internet stores. Fast forward 10 years and the volume of e-commerce sales have exploded in the region. This was only possible with the proper investment in marketing campaigns and education of the consumer. Plus, you need to have the proper infrastructure to work flawlessly. If not, all doubts will reappear, this time even boosted.
So, what are the risks to consumers managing their own finances? And do they extend to FIs and other organizations?
Well, in general, handling of cash is expensive. It involves an adequate infrastructure with a strong focus on security, accounting, transport, and other logistics. And of course, companies that employ a big contingent of unbanked personnel will suffer the most. Even more if you consider that traditionally these companies experience a high rate of staff turnover. Consequently, if the company spends resources, for example, opening bank accounts for these employees, many will be abandoned earlier than later, proving to be a solution too expensive. Using this same example, prepaid instruments have all the benefits that this type of employer is looking for without the big overhead.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us today, Carlos. You shared some really interesting insight into how financial institutions in Latin America and the Caribbean can perhaps start to gain the trust of some of the local consumers in the region. For all of our listeners, tune in as usual. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next Podbyte.